is New Close-Up Deep Action. We created it to give the world 3 times fresher breath and eliminate up to 99% of germs. Maybe we went too far. There's an outbreak of freshness. Now the best ever from Close-Up. 3 times fresher.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. I am Samson Ladi Ayenini, and I welcome you to the show. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. And on Newsfile, as you know, we put Ghana first. Now, who says the Supreme Court is stifling free speech and expression by exercising its awesome powers to punish spin communicators of the ongoing proceedings? Don't be afraid for me. I have not heard the court say it's above criticism. The law is my shepherd. I shall not fear contempt. Citizen vigilante ABK Amidu. Has he successfully stopped the alleged spin and propaganda about the reasons he was sacked as Attorney General? He dared government to publish his political time bomb, gargantuan judgment debt cabinet criminals letter. It's been over 100 hours since, and I guess Ghanaians don't like the deafening silence and the choice rather to speedily assure him of his safety from alleged threats on his life. Choboi, fix our roads. That's how the people of Ashaman got attention to their deplorable roads politicians have over the years used to deceive them for votes. You don't have to like my language, but don't worry. I can't be bothered that much as long as I am far from contempt and close to the people's truth and daily reality against your luxury and half-truths. I'm Samson Ladi Ayenini. I'll be right back.
My Lords, I offer an unconditional apology and withdraw the comment and the choice of words that were used, which might have embarrassed the court or embarrassed your lordships on that said program yesterday.
Well, what did you say on that program?
On that program, tempers flared up. It was a political discussion, and my colleague from the other side, from the NDC, did make a comment that did infuriate me. That is no justification to have followed suit, to have embarrassed the court, though he did indicate that all these things that we are going to court for will amount to nothing. I got infuriated, and I also said, when these comments come and orders from the court who does not cover that, then it's selective. But upon sober reflection, I withdraw those words and those comments unreservedly.
It is quite apparent that a pompous show of private power in the pursuit of the right to engage in political organizations and activity by which the passions of the humble members of society are stirred up on deliberately false political propaganda is a recipe for chaos and conflict in this country. We have seen the Kenyan precedent in this context, and much as we are concerned not to exercise our undoubted powers as a court of law with iron fist, we cannot allow the emergence of over 90 subjects in this country, as we said on the 24th day of June 2013. However, in order to show that we mean well for this country with regard to the exercise of our awesome powers, we have decided to stop short of invoking our powers of contempt, and we invoke in the alternative our power to control the attendance of our proceedings as a public court by members of the public. We take judicial notice of the fact that Mr. Samia Awuku has been attending the proceedings of this court in this ongoing case. We think that the exclusion of Mr. Samia Awuku from attending the proceedings of this court for the rest of the duration of this case should suffice for a start in this direction. That is our delivery.
Thank you.
Now, we've given you full opportunity to demonstrate how mighty you are, and we hope you've done so.
My lords,
Do you now realize your real size in this country?
Yes, my lords.
Good. You are discharged.
Thank you, my lords.
Would like to acknowledge the mercy that your lordships have shown and tempered justice accordingly.
My lords, we are touched by the fact that you listened to us in chambers and you've tempered justice with mercy.
Likewise, your lordships. Okay.
My lords, we associate ourselves with the sentiments expressed by my learned friends, and we thank the court.
Okay.
Let me state that government notes their concern. We do appreciate their concern. Nonetheless, it is important that they exercise restraint whilst we take steps to ensure that whatever grievance may have informed this conduct is addressed.
True, the rules have not been completed. It is true. But we had assurance from the then Minister for Roads that ABCD is being done. As of today, when you go, where the complaint was centered today is being asphalted. Not only done, but asphalt is being put there. So gradually, what was not done yesterday is being taken off today. Admitted that things have delayed. But they are working on. We want asphalt. We want dual carriage. We are getting all that done. So the agitation was perfectly made. But perfectly also, the ministry is looking at us.
right, you're welcome back. This is Newsfile. On Newsfile, we put Ghana first, and this certainly is your most authoritative news analysis show. I'm Samson Ladi Ayenini, and we're looking at 3 issues, getting to them in broader perspective. Number 1, we're looking at the fear of contempt versus the freedom of speech. Number 2, we are asking, should Amidu's political time bomb gargantuan judgment death criminals in cabinet letter be published? That is his demand. It's not been met yet. There's some silence over it. And Shaiman, there was some demonstration, or call it riots, to demand attention to the deplorable state of roads in that municipality. The CPP says that was a commendable action. What do you say? My guests are seated, and we're waiting for Gabi Asario Chiridako of the Dankwa Institute to join us later. Abdul Malik Kweku Bako Jr. is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, and he's a regular panelist on this show. Good morning, Abdul Malik.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Nana Atu Dazi. He's a lawyer. He's a former chief of staff of the Republic of Ghana. Good morning and welcome, Nana.
Good morning.
Godwin Adagwine, doctor. He is a lecturer. I know that there's something in there. I thought it was completed. Welcome to the show. He's a lecturer, legal practitioner, and also a lecturer. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And Gabi will join us sometime shortly. And we would briefly have some comments about the UK's proposal for 3,000 £3,000 bond for high-risk visitors to that country. I like to start the discussion with Abdul Malik Kweku Bako Jr. I am just thinking, as you hear the court summon your friends in the media, Ken Crunchy in particular, are you feeling some way about what you publish, what you have to deal with in respect of this particular petition going forward?
Well, as a professional, as a journalist, we've always been aware, keenly aware, that there's a certain borderline that you don't cross when it comes to reportage or commentary or even criticism. So it is nothing new. We are dealing here with a peculiar situation. I say peculiar because it's the first time that proceedings before the Supreme Court is so publicized with live telecast and broadcast. And as we have admitted on this table a couple of times, we are in almost an uncharted territory. The boundaries of expression and commentary relative to the proceedings have widened. And almost all of us here had agreed previously that it was good for the court to, have a big heart and accommodate some of these things. And for that matter, we're even thinking that the issues of contempt, scandalization, and those things may have to be redefined or another look taken at them critically. So that's the kind of situation we find ourselves in. I, of course, having been a casualty of contempt of court before, even though in my candid opinion, unjustly and unfairly, that's not the issue.
All right. I
understand the ramifications. So, yes, we should all try and trim how we go about it.
Okay.
Just
taking some preliminary brief comments.
Yes, let me conclude. Except that I hope and pray that what is happening does not induce a certain culture of docility and cowardice in our body politic. We have gone too far, we have fought too far, we have deepened democratic culture so far, so much, that I pray and hope that the Supreme Court itself, whilst in exercising its awesome powers, would also be circumspect and ensure that it handles this thing with a certain sense of proportion. Because I'm not too sure that it could go on the path of unsustainability. It could not. be dragging almost every Tom, Dick, and Harry to that platform almost every week. It will make the whole thing look like an absurdity. So we have to be careful how the Supreme Court itself exercises its power. Then, of course, those of us at the other side also must help by ensuring that a little bit more responsibility informs what we say. It's a critical balance, a tightrope that our democracy is walking right now. But I am not about to endorse a situation where we'll all become a nation of cowards.
All right. Nana, you after every court proceeding, you have the opportunity to speak to the media and you attempt to explain matters. And when you hear all of these things happening in respect of people being hauled for contempt, you know, I presume that as a lawyer, you would feel that, and as a senior lawyer at that, you would feel that if it happens to you, the standard will be very high. You may not escape, you know, the punishment. Does it, you know, send any, you know, shivers down your spine?
Yes, I mean, thank you very much. I think that, like Kweku rightly said, I mean, we've come far as a country in terms of pounding the democratic boundaries of the freedom of expression. You know, there was a time you couldn't say anything at all. The time the newspapers, there's only one newspaper, there's only one television. Today there are hundreds of them. I mean, the FM stations everywhere and all that. But it's a blessing, but it also can be a curse. And I think that that's where we should begin from. So we must find a balance, you know. I think that the Supreme Court itself has been very, very, very clear as to the path is chosen. It said that they are not seeking to stem, you know, the freedom of expression at all. They talk about, you know, being against inexactitude in expression. They talk about spinning. They talk about, you know, obvious contempt, you know, being spawned.
They talk about the uncontrolled power of the media, which they intend to halt.
Not only of the media, and the uncontrolled power of certain individuals who've arrogated to themselves some powers that appear to be bigger and larger than the state. That they think that when they speak, there shouldn't be any control. I think that in that I go along with them. But like you're saying, I agree that how it's expressed could also create some level of fear, but we must find a level.
Godwin, briefly, as a practitioner and sitting outside of the courtroom and watching and listening to all that is going on, and the aftermath of the punishment of Samia Wuku, what do you say?
Well, what I have to say is that the Supreme Court has been pushed into taking what one may call an activist role in this particular respect, because the political leadership and other social leadership have failed. Right from January, even before the court was impaneled. I mean, we saw what happened. Individual judges were picked and almost insulted to a point where nobody could tolerate that. From January to June, 6 months.
On social media, some of them are still insulted every day after they make rulings.
And it has gone on. The judges have complained, the judges have advised, yet nothing is being done. I would have thought that the political leaders would have educated their respective commentators to be very mindful of what they say, wherever they may be. But that doesn't seem to be happening. And I think that may explain why the Supreme Court is now getting so active. But as Mr. Baku rightly has said, we need to be very careful that we do not understand what is happening now as an attempt to instill fear in people with respect to the criticism of judicial decisions. But the society must also support the judiciary by educating the rest of us on what we can say and what we cannot say.
Nana, you just said a while ago that we have come very far and I like your choice of words, in pounding the democratic boundaries of this country. And that is also something we ought to be careful so that we don't retreat. Right. But you also say that there's the need to be responsible. I want to read just a portion of what Sami Awuku is said to have said, which got him into trouble. And he's alleged to have made these comments, and he admits to them anyway, to have made them on the 25th of June morning on Peace FM. That is just a day after the court issued what you would like to call the final warning, the final touch lines that you don't cross. Now, he's reported that, and I read that the Deputy Director of Communications for the NPP, Sami Awuku, has described the Supreme Court's warning to the media and party representatives in the ongoing election petition as, quote unquote, hypocritical and selective. I move away a bit from there and go to this point where he's saying, he sought to say, okay, let me just read. He said on the show that the 9-member panel led by Justice William Atuguba was choosy in citing precisely the report by the Daily Guide newspaper that some boxes containing pink sheets in his custody had been retrieved. According to him, the court could have issued the warning without necessarily mentioning a specific newspaper. I'll go to this point where he's quoted as saying, the court could have achieved this feat by giving general warning and warning the parties involved. Now, I want to ask, what is contemptuous about this? And again, is that to suggest that the court is saying that if this is a criticism of its work, is that to say that the court is beyond criticism? And I read to you just a small portion of the court's own decision, the Supreme Court in this country some time ago. The majority decision, and they said in Republic versus Mensah Bonsu that criticism of the court and of judicial decisions, however rambunctious, whether or not in good taste, and despite inaccurate statements of fact, would not amount to contempt of court and is within the limits of the inalienable rights of every individual's freedom of speech. Does this statement breach what the court had said?
Yeah, well, I think that there are two separate statements it did. First of all, as you rightly pointed out, Mr. Sami Awuku admitted making the statement.
Yes, making the statement that the court was hypocritical and selective.
Absolutely. Okay. And he also clearly admitted that those statements, the choice of words, were wrong. You see, so when you start with the person having admitted, the question of defense doesn't even arise. You get me? He himself has admitted that the choice of words was wrong.
My question is, if you put these statements or this choice of words of Sami Awuku against the court's saying that criticism of the court and of the judicial decisions, however rambunctious, whether or not in good taste, and despite inaccurate statements of fact, would not amount to contempt of court and is within the limits of the inalienable rights of every individual's freedom of speech.
You know, what Sami Awuku sought to do was to sit in judgment over the decision of the Supreme Court. You see, Supreme Court is the final court in this country. So immediately you, as it were, become the court above the final court, then you have a problem, you know. But really, there's nothing wrong in his what do you call it, criticizing the court and whatnot.
Okay. But sorry, I need to say that Gabi Asare-Chiridako, Executive Director of the Dankwa Institute, just joined us in the studio. Good morning, Gabi, and welcome.
Morning.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm saying he was sitting in judgment over the Supreme Court. That was completely unacceptable. And what he termed the choice of words. Most of us, when we saw those 2-3 words, we're were shocked, because really to say that the Supreme Court, and it's a direct affront, Supreme Court is hypocritical and selective in a specific case. I mean, there's nothing else that you can say, you know. You are attacking them. Look, we call them Mr. Justice so and all that. The sense of a judge is that he is just. You understand? Mr. Justice, then you expect him to be fair, impartial, you know, and whatnot. Now, if you attack him, then you are not attacking just a theory. You're attacking the person in a specific event, a specific case. And let's roll it back. It's just a day after they had issued the fatwa, as it were, you know, or the warning. And then you come out and say, oh, no, that's it. They were unfair, they were unjust, and all that. Then a judge who is unfair, a judge who is hypocritical, a judge who is selective.
Does it not matter that he gives the context in which he says this is selective?
No, I'm saying that I wouldn't go to his defense on that. I mean, quite clearly, it's not a defense to say that I've committed a crime, but others have committed similar crimes, and you haven't punished them. You know, I mean, so we deal with yours. Get me? And then, I'm compelled to mention, if we are dealing with guide, let's deal with guide. That's you know, this whole idea of trying to compare what this person said or the other said. Of course, he could also have drawn the attention of the judicial secretary in writing or whatnot to other things which others must have said or whatnot. As events are unfolding, you can see that others have been holding for statements made about the same time or on the same platform with him, you know. So I think it's really the approach, and he clearly was contemptuous, and he has admitted that he was contemptuous of the court. It's not that he criticized the court. The court must be criticized. They are part of the laws of contempt, as it said, are not to protect the judges. The laws of contempt, they are not intended to protect the judges, but to protect the court system, the society itself, so that we have the, the sanctity of the court intact. Quickly, I would say that two things. You have the right to freedom of speech. You have those fundamental rights. They're all enshrined. But competing against it is also the national security, the state. Listen, the first casualty in an anarchic situation is the media. You get me? One of the first casualties will be the media. So when you are in a stateless country, you cannot be talking about freedom of the media, freedom of press, and whatnot. Go and say this in the country, in Afghanistan. Sorry, I mean, some of those countries where there's no law, Somalia. Okay. And you see that you can't even publish anything. You can't say anything.
All right, and that's very not good example to use anyway. You don't think so? Where you can't express yourself?
Yeah, but that is to make the point that it is the interest of all of us to preserve what we have today. All and right. I think that was the thrust of the Supreme Court, that we shouldn't allow our democracy to be destroyed, particularly as we get very close to the conclusion of this case. We should be looking at the future, the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. How will people take the judgment and all that? If they don't have confidence in the judges, what will be the worth of the judgment that they deliver? You understand? If they think that the judges are biased or they are selective, who will have trust in their judgment? Right. I think that it's necessary to calm down and calm down clear.
All right. Now, Gabi, in this context of the nature of the contempt, you know very well as a lawyer that when imputations of improper motive are attributed to those who are taking part in the administration of justice, and that will also seek to interfere in the process, you are clearly way out of line as far as your freedom of expression is concerned. Yeah. I want you to look at that in perspective, looking at the comments that Sami Awuku made and has admitted them to be contemptuous?
Well, I think sometimes, we need some clarity because the lines are actually subjective as to when do you cross the line. Mm-hmm. Because what was Sami's point? Sami said, look, there have been other things said and written about, and the court was wrong to be selective. It's an opinion. But then again, the court cannot be expected to know everything that is said and written. So what they hear or see, they can use it as an example to tell the whole country that, look, we do not condone this sort of behavior or conduct. So I think, you can't necessarily say under normal circumstances Sami was wrong to even accuse the court of being selective. But that accusation itself is not inherently fair because the court would not necessarily know everything that has been said or written.
Is it not also the case that accusation is not fair, more so because it's being made, you are making references to incidences that have happened before the final warning.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so they don't apply.
But I am not so sure because the Daily Guide publication that was referred to was also before the final warning. Okay? And so, yes, of course, it was before the final warning. So
it's a commentary on that reference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, Sami's point was that it was Daily Guide that was cited. Okay? So I think Sami was not wrong in actually saying that it shouldn't just be Daily Guide. But he was not fair because it's assuming that the court is aware of all the other publications. Look, there are over 100 radio stations in the morning talking about the Supreme Court case. Of course, you don't expect the judges to know what happens in Kintampo and the rest of the country. Even in Accra, it has to be brought to their attention. And what is brought to their attention is what they will comment. And, I believe that under normal circumstances, the Supreme Court would not have taken judicial notice of this. But they do recognize the enormity of the task before them. And it's important that they take some level of control. We saw it in Kenya. Indeed, before the trial began, part of the directions issued by the court was that, look, I will try and get the exact words that they used. In terms of, there was a clear direction to the media on how they were to report on the case. And at the end of the case, they commended the media for actually doing the responsible thing, if you like. The court recognizes that, look, if we don't make an exception of this and really keep some level of discipline, this may go out of hand. Because you just have to listen to someone. Because when you criticize the court as being unfair or hypocritical, okay, that criticism itself may not be wrong, but it may have implications, particularly when you have a divided nation. And the more we continue saying that the court is unfair, the court is this, the court is that, the more we may inadvertently be preparing minds not to accept the decision. I believe this is what is playing on the minds of the court. So, under normal circumstances, the court would have ignored Sami's point. That's the way I look at it. But they want to somehow, if you like, protect this, the sanctity of the country and allow, if you like, their decision to be accepted but not to be somehow prejudiced by some views. Because if you notice, over the last few weeks, it appears that is where we're going, where you hear people coming out clearly. If the decision goes this way, we will not accept it.
We'll deal with some of the details of some of those comments subsequently. But Godwin, tell me, briefly, how would you explain to someone who is listening to us and who wants to participate in the discussions, discussing issues about the trial and wanting to stay away from contempt, within the circumstance, what is or is not contempt?
The essence of the rule on contempt is not to bring the institution of justice into disrepute and contempt. So when you make a statement with respect to a decision by the court on an issue, the statement may either be to support it or be against it, backed by reasons. The reasons may be analytical, they may be based on facts. You can say, for example, that the court did not give adequate weight to this particular point. And if it did, it could have come to this particular conclusion. You can say that, and you don't need to say the way I have said it, but that idea can come out. That is a criticism.
No, but you are speaking now about decisions that have already been taken by the court.
That's one aspect of it.
Yes, and when they have already taken the decisions, you say that they have become functus officio. So that document or whatever they have done is now in the public domain. The public can deal with it in whichever way they deem fit.
Yeah, which is one of the right or the permissible ways to talk about court issues. But while the issues are still being discussed, still being evaluated.
That's the next level.
With the view to coming to a conclusion.
All right.
And then we now participate in the processes, looking at the way in which a particular issue is being looked at, the way in which a particular party is being dealt with. How do we conduct such discussion without creating the impression that the court is embarking upon a course that will lead to an unjust result? That is the danger we must avoid. We can talk about it, but be very mindful of the responsibility to avoid creating the minds of people to have an understanding that the court is being decidedly unjust or against a particular group. And Gabi was making a number of points about why the Supreme Court, has to use the Samuel Wuku's point, which is similar to what I said earlier. The court appears to be losing control. Day in, day out, it issues the warning, and almost the following day, the same conduct or similar conduct is repeated and repeated. And nobody is...
And in fact, people were getting tired of the warnings.
Exactly.
And they had expressed so.
And people even felt that the judges themselves were not up to the task of controlling conduct relative to what they were doing. Right in their presence, senior lawyers put up conduct that ought not to be put up.
Yes, but they had always said that they took notice of the stakes involved in this case, and they didn't want to crack the whip.
Well, but if that piece of advice is not being taken into account in putting up the conduct, I think that the court, will have to step in. Don't forget, we have bastardized almost every other institution of authority in the country. Parliament is not being respected. The presidency is not being respected. Even the Chief Justice herself. If you look at some of the things that people have said about her many times. Now, the only institution now that appears to have some semblance of authority is the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court also creates the impression that it is as powerless as those other institutions that have not been able to take a decisive stand on these things, then where do you think we'll be heading to? But the other point too is, it is the same judiciary that is to protect the freedoms and the liberties that we are enjoying. So how can it then take the lead of a prosecutor, creating the impression that people cannot criticize us, and then we expect it to protect this? That is where civil society, the political parties, the media must come in and support the judiciary. You don't create the platform, maintain the platform, and allow certain conduct to be put up that undermines the very basis of the freedom that we are enjoying.
Very soon, I will be introducing you to also a petition that have cited. It's actually been published on ultimateonline.com. It's a radio station in Ashanti region. And there is this Professor Stephen Kweku-Asare, who has been in the Supreme Court a number of times to challenge certain landmark issues and have gotten some very good results for this country. And he is petitioning the Chief Justice to intervene and stop their laws from continuing to invite people to punish them. But I wanted to ask you, there are questions that are coming up about the procedure that's been adopted by the court in committing people for contempt. Do you have any issues with the procedure? There are questions, for example, that principle, the rules of natural justice, that a person must be heard before he is condemned, and that you don't have to be a judge in your own case. Listen around and just check on the social network and everywhere. You see that these questions are coming up very strongly, that the people who are called there, don't they have a right to a lawyer to defend their comments if they have to do so?
But I thought the gentleman who was invited before the judges had the support of all the lawyers in the court. I mean, but that's just on the lighter side. You see, I'll refer you to comments that one very senior lawyer has had occasion to make, complain about the same attitude, and even an official of the Ghana Bar Association. You know, I'm making this reference because they are the ones who are supposed to have been criticizing the procedure. But they seem to be saying that, look, the judges have even not invoked the powers that they have to invite people who have made contemptuous statements before them and punish them. Of course, you talk about the rule on giving the person fair hearing and all of that. All these rules are interpreted and then applied in specific contexts. In the case of the courts, they have the power to punish contempt committed right in their presence.
Right in their presence.
Right
How
in their
about
presence.
what the contempt we are talking about, which is committed outside of the court?
It also goes the same way. They can invite you, if you have made scandalous statement about them, to come and substantiate your point. Will that not amount to giving you a hearing? If they invite you to come, they are not saying they don't come with a lawyer. If you come and then they ask you, why did you say this? That is what the obligation to create the opportunity for fair hearing is about. And don't forget...
And do you think sincerely that there's an opportunity for a trial in this case, for example, for a hearing, as you put it?
You know, it is a power the Supreme Court has to exercise, which should not be seen and interpreted in the light of a trial in ordinary cases. It is a power of discipline to control the proceedings that it is conducted. Right. And that is how we should see it.
Let me just, if you don't mind, let me just read Lord Denning's dictum on Regina.
Okay, speak up a bit. You say Lord Denning.
Lord Denning, in the case R.N. Commissioner of Police of the Metropolis, 1968. And he said, it is the right of every man in Parliament or out of it, in the press or over the broadcast, to make fair comment, even outspoken comment, on matters of public interest. Those who comment can deal faithfully with all that is done in a court of justice. They can say that we are mistaken and our decisions erroneous, whether they are subject to appeal or not. All I would ask is that those who criticize us remember that from the nature of our office, we cannot reply to their criticisms. I mean, I should leave it there. I can continue back.
No, but I think that...
We cannot enter into public controversy,
yes,
still less into political controversy. We must rely on our conduct itself to be its own vindication.
Yes, if I ever just say that. You know, I have right before me, what do you call it, Professor Asaris. I'm sure, as you say, we'll be coming to it. He's written a fantastic piece. I really go along with quite a number of the points that he canvasses. Except that, you know, like what Gabi read, the very opening, if you read again, there's a word fairly. What does it say?
Absolutely.
What
to
did
make
it say?
fair comment, even outspoken comment on matters of public interest.
Yes. You see, no, but even right before that.
It is the right of every man.
Yes.
okay, in Parliament or out of it, in the press or over the broadcast, to make fair comment, even outspoken comment on matters of
You see, so you must define, first of all, whether that the comment the person's made is fair or not. You can say, when comments are made, which are obviously malicious, then the ordinary statement will not apply. But just to come, we can come to that later on. But just to try and follow the issue of procedure, like my colleague Riley said, there are two situations: the right to what do you call it, contempt, punish contempt. I think Article 1262 or so of the Constitution is very clear. It's the one law that is preserved, the common law. It's known. The boundaries are fairly well known, even though it's difficult at times to pinpoint.
The article we are referring to is not the procedure.
No, I'm talking now coming into the procedure. Now, in terms of procedure, if contempt is committed in the presence, in the face as well of the court, it can immediately call you and then punish you. If it's outside, there are procedures that we take to do that. Now, in the case of Samia Awuku, you realize that the court said they wanted him. They didn't say that they wanted to try him. You understand? Now, the man came, and before we could say Jack, he raised his hand. I admit. I didn't say a word. So there was, the whole process was aborted. But in any case, Samia Awuku's situation is totally different. In terms of procedure.
Are you suggesting that in this situation, he had an option? Because I suspect if he had chosen any other path, he would have been in jail by now.
No, what I'm saying is that, you see, Samia Awuku's case, I think we should put it in context, that Samia Awuku benefited from an earlier, what do you call it, collaboration by the solicitors, all of us. We were all around. The solicitors, on both sides said, look, we could see imminent danger coming. So the lead counsels went into chambers and pleaded. And the court admitted, you see. So they tempered, they prayed for justice to be tempered, with mercy. So when he came, it's like he came in just to apologize and withdraw.
Okay. But let me hear. Okay,
in the case of, if you've read what has happened, formal letters have issued to Ken Kranchi and others, formal letters inviting them to come. And if you read the content of the letter, it is saying that they should come and explain why. It's like why processes should not issue. But then the court may decide how to go about it, whether to refer the matter to Attorney General or whatnot. But
Senior, at the risk of being prejudicial, I don't see why Ken Kranchi should be called to the court.
No, but I've
read his piece, and at the risk of being prejudicial,
it's not fair.
I will make the point.
Gabby, this is the way I intend for us to treat the issues. We'll take them one by one.
Okay.
Abdul Malik, let's hear you on this one of Samia Awuku.
I suspect that it was in view of the fact that there had been a certain trend and the court had expressed concern relative to that trend. That is why the Samia Awuku thing was captured in the context in which it was by the court and him eventually dragged before the court. Because strictly speaking, to say that the court's conduct relative to the citing of Daily Guide was selective, that's a fact. It was selective. That's a fact.
Absolutely.
To say it was hypocritical, perhaps that was a bit harsh in terms of his critical tone. Maybe he could have used a better word. But I think the Supreme Court, I can see the problem. In what I'm told, and since I'm not a lawyer, I stand to be corrected, that usually the judges don't have the benefit or the opportunity to respond to criticisms of their decisions and conduct. It's the bar that ought to be doing that on their behalf. In the absence of a very articulate, consistent defense of the bench by the bar, we are having this situation. And so perhaps to nib in the bud that trend, to try and truncate it for the better, of the proceedings at its tail end, the Supreme Court finds itself in this situation. And that's why I raised the point of sustainability. That I cannot imagine a situation where every week, if they were to monitor media reports, they would insist on bringing people before them. It will become a distraction to the core issues before the court now. And you can imagine a situation where the Supreme Court would have to be jailing or citing people for contempt and sanctioning them with whatever prescription, which I cannot predict, every week.
Is it not the expectation that when one or two people are sanctioned, the rest will fall in line?
Is that what happens all the time? People are shot. People shot armed robbers at the firing range. Today it has escalated. So really, it's not an absolute. Some people may exercise caution and circumspection, but not everybody. So I'm saying...
But it's good that people are put on notice that if you cross the...
That's why I'm saying that, see, it must be very serious. I recall Justice Akwa at the 4th CJ, that's Chief Justice Forum, on 22nd November 2005. The theme was maintaining the independence and accountability of the judiciary, perceptions, challenges, and the way forward. And the question of criticism came up. If you permit, I'll just read it so that you can understand where I'm coming from. It says, indeed, criticism of judges and their decisions is a necessary part of the justice system. When judges engage in misconduct or are unable to adequately perform their duties, criticism may be needed to highlight or address the failure. The effectiveness of administration of justice depends in large measure on public confidence. The reporting of inaccurate or unjust criticism of judges, courts, or our system of justice by the news media erodes public confidence and weakens the administration of justice. It is vital that non-litigants, as well as litigants, believe that the courts, their procedures and decisions are fair and impartial. In most countries, criticisms which takes the form of expression of disagreement with an opinion or a particular course of action is tolerated. This is as true of the common law courts in England, Ghana, and elsewhere. It is, however, undesirable for a judge to respond to criticism of her or his own actions by appearing in the news media. In most jurisdictions, it is the responsibility of the Bar Association to respond to these criticisms. For there is no doubt that the legal profession has special responsibilities in upholding the independence and the integrity of the courts. Then listen. The Canadian Bar Association's canons of legal ethics put it this way, quote, judges, not being free to defend themselves, are entitled to receive the support of the legal profession against unjust criticisms and complaint. The American Bar Association's Commission on Separation of Powers and Judicial Independence a few years ago recognized the dilemma of needing to respond to criticism, but not to all criticisms. The ABA, that's the American Bar Association Commissions, suggested state bar associations focus on these circumstances, and this is critical. A, when the criticism is serious and will most likely have more than a passing, or you are the lawyers, I don't understand, they said de minimis, a negative effect in the community. I don't know what it means. B, when the criticism...
Point of uselessness.
Interesting. B, when the criticism displays a lack of understanding of the legal system or the role of the judge and is based at least partially on such misunderstanding. C, when the criticism is materially inaccurate, the inaccuracy should be a substantial part of the criticism so that the response does not appear to be nitpicking. Finally, this is quite a sensible approach. Now, personal attacks, criticisms laden with political threats, criticisms that misrepresent and distort the nature and context of judicial decisions, and assigning of blame to the judges for the ills of society damage the integrity of the judiciary and threaten the doctrine of judicial independence. This is especially so when the criticism comes from politicians and is aimed only at individual judges, but also it is aimed not only at individual judges, but also particular courts or the judiciary as a whole. Fantastic. Where do we situate Samia Oku's criticism? Where do we situate it?
You find that to be a personal attack on the judge?
No. No. No.
It is the court.
He is questioning the selectivity that informed the citing of daily guide. It is possible, as Gabi said, that the court may not have seen the others. That is possible. So the court may feel that this is a bit unfair. But I'm saying that it is not of the nature that the court itself should intervene normally, ordinarily, except because of the trend. But for the trend, I'm being honest with you, they would have ignored this one. And I'm saying that there is a risk, if we are not careful, of a situation where the Supreme Court will be activated to always look at all these things consistently from today or from then, the 25th thing, the border final touch line thing, and may have a load of such matters. That also will not be in the interest.
Where you have
case. Yes, that's what I mean by a certain distraction may occur. And the way these cases are coming and the nature, there's also so much partisan politicking involved in it. It could undermine that public confidence or the integrity of the court before even the final judgment.
All right, so
because people would have roped all this. I'm not blaming the court.
Right.
I'm not scared blaming them if I have to. But I'm saying that what will happen is that before the judgment, a certain environment, psychologically, may have been created to actually even undermine whatever verdict they bring.
A key point you raised from, is it Jasakwa?
Yes.
Jasakwa's statement.
Yeah.
And which is admitted worldwide, that it is the bar that goes to the defense of the bench.
Yeah.
In this country, do you think that the bar can be doing that job? Because the bar has been severally tagged politically.
You know, the bar has gone through a checkered history. There were times that they found themselves even fighting the Chief Justice. I remember the Mason Bonso thing and all the rest. The bar had a very strong position because of the facts that were available to them. And that was also seen as a problem. It was quite paradoxical. Here was the bar not defending a member of the bench. But I think they were right then. Subsequent to that, they've gone through different phases. This particular Supreme Court matter, I've heard the bar tell the public, be careful, be cautious, be responsible. I've heard it many times. Indeed, I could think I've heard them come out to say, oh, it was mild, but perhaps it's the beginning. So what is it that disabled the bar from consistently and positively, indeed in a categorical manner?
But that was a very unfortunate statement from the bar.
Yes, but I'm saying once they've said it shows they have the presence of mind.
You see, that's the point I was
very
making.
Unfortunate statement.
That if it's a statement coming from an NDC member and the bar, someone in the bar responds, the person will be said to be MPP. If it is coming from the other side and someone responds, you say he's NDC.
It's the price the bar must pay for that, the partisan nature of our political environment. But the bar must be sure that the statement is making on behalf of the bench can be defended relative to law and justice. And that should be done. Look, all of us, there's so much polarization, but you need people with courage, the courage of conviction. And I expect the bar, because I'm saying in recent times, the posture, the statements that have come indicated that they wanted a situation where we all are responsible relative to the proceedings. That's the attitude I've seen them display. So really, within that context, if indeed the Awuku thing was perceived as an unfair criticism of the Supreme Court, what is it that disables the bar or disabled the bar from putting in a word on behalf of the bench? In any case, subsequent to the Awuku thing, there are many more. We're going to see many more. I am saying the Supreme Court cannot and must not continue to chase those people all the time and bring them before the court. It will become a major point of distraction. We may be invited into a realm of, I'm looking for the word. But
go for your favorite word.
Absurdity.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Nana, look at these comments that were made by Stephen Atubiga. He said that the party, the NDC party, will not sit aloof and watch the Supreme Court hand over power to the opposition NPP. Now, he says, we are prepared to meet the NPP boot for boot. We are ever ready. We will not hand over. And the report says he exclaimed. Now, how do you, in your private situations, deal with members of the party or people who seek to communicate for the party when they make some of these comments?
Well, I to be honest with you, I think that this is a perfect situation of an area that, anybody, whether a lawyer or non-lawyer, should stray. Warrants have been issued, or letters have been issued, to determine specifically this matter, this kind of matter, on Tuesday. And that's what I was talking about, Gabi.
All right.
So I think that we should.
Doesn't stop me from talking about it.
Okay, fine. But let us simply not go there. It's Tuesday. They are being invited. I'm saying that what they are being invited for. When they get out there, I think the court will roll out. They will want to ask them a few questions. If they are dissatisfied, maybe they will take a certain course of action. Maybe discharge them. Maybe
I wanted to know. So I wanted to know what you do privately to some of your members when they make comments. You have already said here that comments that are obviously in contempt, and I'm just asking. You find that already they have been warrants have been issued over this. I'm also quoting you another one for Tuesday, the 25th of June, by one Mr. Dawood, who hosts the Majority Caucus on Multi-TV here. And he is also reported to have said, and quote, he said, "I do not see any Supreme Court overturning any decision made by the EC. In other words, President Mohammed's presidency is going to be intact. If anything at all, it is going to be confirmed by the Supreme Court, and that there is never going to be a time, whether 2013 or the years to come, where we will have overturning of verdicts in the Supreme Court. It is not going to happen. For all of you NDC, including MPP, neutral-minded persons watching me, nothing is going to come out of the Supreme Court case. No Supreme Court is going to overturn any decision. Take it from me."
Yes, I'll repeat my assertion that, again, you see, let me put it this way. It doesn't matter who is saying it, whether NDC or MPP.
There's no warrant in respect of this guy.
I don't know.
No, there is not.
I'm saying that I don't know, and I wouldn't.
You are just the course.
Yes, I think that. I think no matter what it is, I think we should live it. I think that what we should be doing, we should be a little more proactive. All of us, the whole country, we must have an objective. What is it that we want? We want a democratic state. Not only a democratic state, but we want a peaceful, stable, democratic state. So how do we get there? If we are in the major crisis of determining the leadership for the next 4 years or so, and we come to the bridge, you understand? A decision is likely to be coming out. We must, be proactive and work towards having a conclusion that will be acceptable to all. I thought I read I think Kofi Annan. Yes, you should have been talking also about Mr. Kofi Annan.
I have Kofi Annan's test here. And what I wanted you to do is to deal with the individual cases briefly, and then we'll zero in on Kofi Annan and his approach to making sure that the atmosphere is not poisoned before the judgment of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but you poison the atmosphere by zooming into the individual cases, which are probably what we term bad nuts. You see, they say one bad nut in a basket, destroys the whole.
If they ought to be named and shamed, and you don't do that, and you straight away go and preach peace, you may not get that.
No, sir. But here we are sitting here. You've drawn attention to it. What is the evidence? For me as a lawyer, how do I assume that the man said it? You probably will call him and say, "No, I was misquoted. No, I didn't say that." So I don't think that we can come to a positive position.
If he said so, the footage will be made available to him.
For now, it has not been made available to me.
Okay.
So I'm saying that it will. I think that we should rise above the individual thematics and then focus. And then, like you said, educate our people on the goal of the state. Because it's a higher goal
of
a peaceful, stable, independent,
we'll come there
state.
Shortly, and I'll invite you
Yes,
to look at that.
You know, I don't know, but I find this quite an intriguing situation, the way where we are heading towards. And that's why I'm still reinforcing my advice, or a plea rather, to the Supreme Court to truncate this whole thing of monitoring what people are saying and calling them before it, and leave the Bar Association to do some responses for them and focus on the issue. Because see, these two statements you read, as terrible as they are, in my candid opinion, these are political hot air coming from political midgets. It will have no real effect on the proceedings of the court and the outcome. With the Samia Awuku thing.
But you have to be minded by what Justice Atuguba said.
Yes.
They are poisoning the people out there. No. And it is part of the reason the court want to crack the
whip. But can the court
people will be more responsible in their comments.
Within the context of sustainability, I'm saying this cannot be sustained. Are they going to drag every Tom, Dick, and Harry before the highest court of the land every week before the case ends and deal with them this way?
All the thieves and robbers in this country. But when you get one, you deal with him.
No, but we've dealt with one. And even that one, some of us have problems with the quality, the substance of what he was supposed to have said. But it's been dealt with. He's gone to court and admitted. So what's the big deal of coming here to belabor the point? I won't do that. But I'm saying, I'm saying that you see, so these two gentlemen, these two things, you've called the court's attention to the other one. So obviously, the consistency would demand they went. Is that what we are going to be doing every day? Because there are many more out there. Post the final touchline thing. I listened to radio, and I heard very serious things. We are going to drag all of them there for the Supreme Court to impose sanctions on them. Please, let the Bar Association come in and do some education and responses on behalf of the bench.
You don't agree that after they have served this notice, through invitation of these people and punishing them according to the law, it will sanitize the airwaves. Haven't you observed a setting trend after Samia Awuku was called?
Well, in fact, I've even read some of the political leaders saying that after the time I read it, then on, they were not going to make a supposedly contemptuous statement.
I hope so.
So, if that is anything to go by, then I'll agree, with the proposition, your question, that yes, that incident is having some kind of impact. And I want to believe that was the purpose, of what the Supreme Court did, to sound a warning that certain things are not acceptable. But you see, if we are to say that the Supreme Court should not go down there, which is correct to say, the rest of us must support it. And the media in particular must say, because all these things,
who says it is the bar that should take that role?
Well, that's okay.
We have some role to argue,
yes,
but the bar is the most.
Yeah, that's because we are talking of leadership at various levels, and that is correct to say. But the media in particular, because you create the platform, you maintain the platform, you bring the people there, you fail to control them and what they say.
He has a point.
So, I think that if we were to be doing this,
if for example, a host, ask a request of a panelist to retract, and they say, I will not retract. And in this case, one of them, that is what happened. In Atugube's case, he was asked by Kaba to retract his comments, and he said he stood by them.
But again, I think we should be careful. This matter will come on Tuesday.
So let's say that a person does that. You walk the person out. And I think that will be some show of authority. Next time he comes, he will respect your authority. The rest remaining will respect your authority. But sometimes we treat them as heroes. So others also emulate and even perfect what they do.
Okay. Yeah. Gabi wanted to come in earlier, and I saw that he wanted to disagree with you when you suggested that decisions that have already been made, the commentary are still subject to contempt, and he was relating that to Ken Cranch's.
I'll be very surprised if the court, after being read to them Ken Crunchy's front page comment, if they still think that it was legitimate to hold him before them, I'll be very surprised. Absolutely. Because they said front page comment. Yes.
Or there are two stories.
They said front page comment.
I see.
Yes. I'll be very surprised. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. All Ken Crunchy seek to do was to say that we need clarity.
There was another story.
Yes, there was a story about selectivity. Now, if a media house writes about selectivity, you are going to hold and gives instances of selectivity.
Have the story.
You are going to hold the media before you because a media house has written this. I mean, look, a functioning democracy or participatory democracy requires an inquiring professional and free media. There's absolutely no two ways about it. So if he's asking questions, he's putting the facts out there that these are the things that are happening. He's drawing the court's attention to it. And the court should be mindful of not being accused of selectivity. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. To me, it was good that even those who have been called now, there are even statements made in Kumasi. So it sends a clear message that wherever you are, you have to be responsible. I don't know, this Atubiga chap, I don't know whether he got some extra powers from his name. You know, the closest of his name to the presiding judge. I don't know. Because after he said all that, like you said, he wouldn't retract. The morning after Statesman published it, he was an Adum, and he was still defiant. But as soon as his name was mentioned...
you heard him subsequently.
As soon as his name was mentioned in court, he's changed.
He's all over the place.
He's all pleading. Yeah. You know, so clearly, whatever... I don't know, whatever
he's
took
pleading,
before.
and among other things, he says even if he were to be on a sick bed, he would like to be carried into the Supreme Court.
But
it's
to mitigate. But we have to be, like I said, it's important, you know, like in Kenya, right from the start, the court issued directions that the parties, their agents, their supporters, their advisors should desist from prosecuting this case anywhere else, the merits of this case anywhere else but in the court. And that was followed. Here, the court obviously was relaxed, and now it sees that it's getting to the end, and if it's not careful, things may go out of hand. And I think the issue really, their concern is not about them. This is the way I read it. I mean, if you read Dennis' thing, he said, look, regardless of criticism, we will do what is right. And that's what justice is supposed to do. Do what is right. So really, it's not about the justices themselves, but the reactions to their decision.
Yeah.
You know, and
when we come,
like the presiding judge said, and I think he's repeated it. We know what happened in Kenya.
All right.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to
go there
before we take action. So I think really we need to understand that.
We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll focus the whole thing on Kofi Annan's perspective, and then, but I would play to you again what Justice Atuguba had to say, and you would discover in his comments that he was thinking beyond the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
And not the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
he was talking about people who, you know, were vilifying people for no reason or doing all sorts of things. We'll take a quick break here and we'll return to continue with the discussion. This is Newsfile on Joy 99.7 FM. You're watching us on your Joy News channel on Multi TV. Your comments are welcome. Civil, non-contemptuous comments are welcome to 1422. I'll be right back. All right. Thank you very much. And my producer keeps repeating to me on the mic that they feel your shirt. And this is by Latida. Now, don't wait for me, get out, and then you accost me somewhere around the court and ask for the number. It's 020-433-6444. 020-433-644. That is the number to connect to Latida for cheap, but very quality shirt like this one.
Really? I mean, you can get a free shirt and you can't get one for your producer. That's totally out of order.
All right, I'll work at that for him also. Now, a few messages here. This one from Francis in Kumasi says, the recent calls for contempt psychologically affect commentary on proceedings at the Supreme Court, as it needs to be appreciated that there is a thin line between commentary and contempt, and therefore the justices need to be circumspect. Okay, sorry, you are leading me to contempt. I will not. And then he says that the victims and everybody, like everybody should be on check. Says, sorry to say, that one too, I won't take it. Now, Kondos Beidu, Seshi Asafo says the Supreme Court's warning to Samia Wuku must also go to Kakra Samoa, Gabi, Suming, and Anita Disosu.
Don't leave it at Gabi.
Bernard Mona, and then he's mentioning a whole lot of people. Now, I think there ought to be some distinction. They are saying that those comments that were made after the 24th, when they had given the final warning. So let's not bring everybody from the start to it. If you're referring to Kakra Samoa, for example, he made his comment even before the writ was filed. The petition was filed, I think.
But contempt is contempt.
Contempt is contempt only when it is the matter is pending. All right, now, Kwame Ofori Osinase writes, if the petitioners... Okay, we are not discussing that part of the issue. All right, thank you very much. This one says, I commend Nana for his submissions that maximum respect must be accorded the Supreme Court and protect the sanctity of the court as well. Samuel Owari Pankrono in Kumasi. Okay, thank you very much. You are asking again, why can't you bring women to your show? We will bring the women, and sometimes, of course, you have seen some of them here. The Almighty Justice Atuguba is calling the people to reasonability. I've had to edit that one seriously. A lot of them are leading me to contempt, and I refuse to, allow them to.
You know your size.
Yes. You know where power lies. Now, Gabi, very briefly about this. Ken Crunchy appears to be suggesting that he intends to mount a certain defense. I don't know, what do you know that we don't know about how he intends to go about, his appearing on Tuesday?
Well, clearly, I think he did what I see to be acceptable within the Constitution, and even under this special circumstance that we are under. I really don't see what he did which is wrong, and I hope that he's not necessarily just going to go out there and apologize. I hope that he will stand firm to what he wrote, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't just be quiet for the sake of it. If you can be harsh on the judiciary, but so long as it is fair, and I believe his comments were fair. I mean, and really, I'd be very surprised if they were to find otherwise, because like I said, proper functioning democracy requires that we have a free, active, professional, and inquiring media, and that's what he sought to do.
Okay.
In terms of
my suspicion also with him is that His Lordship, the President of the panel, may have quoted what is not what they are actually looking at. So if he only limits to the front page comment, then...
So if it's a front page, I've read the front page comment, I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. And at the end of the day too, it's not, we shouldn't say that they have read it. Perhaps it was drawn to the attention was drawn to it.
All right.
So they want to bring him forward. And I hope that he'll go there and read the whole piece. And then they will do what is right. But to me, what I see, and that's the danger, it appears that there's a strategy, and I stand to be corrected. But if you see the trend over the last week or so, it appears there's a communication strategy on the part of the NDC to be saying these things. When you hear, because this Atubiga chap went as far as to say that he had the blessing of the president. Why would he say so? It doesn't mean that the president told him necessarily, but it appears that people up there are telling them, go out there to say that we will not accept this. we will not accept the court overturning the precedents. And really, if this is what has been happening, I would advise Asiedun Ketia and the rest of them to be careful and tell their people not to go this way, because that is not the way we want to go. Okay. Let's leave it to the court.
And I suppose the same goes to
the same goes to the MPP.
You, yes.
The same goes to the MPP. But of course, I've never heard the MPP say that there will be a civil war.
All right.
No,
I thought you were going to say you've never heard the NPP say that Nana will be president by a certain time. Okay. Now this one from
well, but that was Easter.
This one from Kweku. He says that I disagree with Kweku. The court need not haul every offender before it. They only need to set an example with a few of those that come to their notice, and the rest will fall in line. Now let's look at also briefly at Professor Stephen Kweku Asare and his petition to the Chief Justice. It's a very long petition. I'm unable to go to all of it, but in the end, he's asking that the Chief Justice should step in and immediately halt the ongoing exercise of the monitoring of what people are saying about the case, and also halt immediately the ongoing exercise of suppressing what can be said about the case. She should also halt immediately the ongoing exercise of using the Supreme Court as a vehicle to intimidate those who hold strong opinions about the conduct of the case, whether or not such opinions are logical, fanciful, mistaken, or otherwise ridiculous.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, come in.
Yes. Just this morning, I saw Professor Asari's petition later on being forwarded to the Chief Justice. I find it quite interesting. I mean, quite stimulating that other opinion coming in. It should be encouraged. People should be encouraged to, hold divergent opinion in a society like this. Except that he is calling for a complete walk away by the Supreme Court from this whole process of contempt or cracking the whip. That's essentially what he's saying.
They have to do with this use procedure.
Yes, and that is where I've articulated this earlier on. That is where I fault him. What procedure did the Supreme Court use in the case of Samia Awuku? I mean, Samia Awuku didn't lend himself to a procedure. The man was invited. And then he came in and said, look, I give up, I apologize. So we don't have, or we haven't seen the processes that the Supreme Court would have taken him through. That would be legitimate, Now, I'm saying that in this second case, we've read in the papers today that warrants or letters have issued to some person, Ken Kurachi, Atubiga, and whatnot, stating that they made some prejudicial statements. Would they come to court on Tuesday? When we go on Tuesday, then we will know the procedure that the Supreme Court will roll out. So I think that, like I like to say, his article, learned as it is premature. I mean, he's not necessarily attacking the Supreme Court. There are some merits in what he's saying. He raises the areas. There are areas that I agree with him wholly about the extent of the right to the freedom of speech. I've said this over and over again. I mean, until today, we didn't have the television or reportage coming in from the court. That was awesome. America does not permit it at the Supreme Court. You get me? So we should be asking, why is it that it's possible in America? It's not possible in America. It's possible in Ghana. Let's weigh it. When the television carry the images and whatnot out there, what do we expect the people to be doing? Watch and just that one. Obviously, in social beings, they'll be talking about it. So what they say, would that be the subject of a judgment? How does the court monitor?
Okay, can the Chief Justice intervene in any case? That's my question. The Chief Justice is not on the panel. Can she intervene?
No, certainly if we have what the term practice direction. So if the Chief Justice reads this article and thinks that the court, the guidelines might be set for the court. It should be possible. Of course, the court as it sits now is independent and must regulate its own rules. But how did the television get into a courtroom in the first place? You get me? So somebody must have directed. Otherwise, I think there's governance, there's proper governance. Professor Asari raises interesting matters which we probably may have to consider after this trial. Okay. But for now, we must preserve the integrity and the sanctity of the state.
Okay.
All of us.
Let's listen to the President of the panel, Justice William Atuba, briefly, and then I'll come to Kofi Annan's point.
It is quite apparent that a pompous show of private power in the pursuit of the right to engage in political organizations and activity by which the passions of the humble members of society are stirred up on deliberately false political propaganda is a recipe for chaos and conflict in this country. We have seen the Kenyan precedent in this context, and much as we are concerned not to exercise our undoubted powers as a court of law with iron fist, we cannot allow the emergence of over 90 subjects in this country, as we said on the 24th day of June 2013. However, in order to show that we mean well for this country with regard to the exercise of our awesome powers, we have decided to stop short of invoking our powers of contempt, and we invoke in the alternative our power to control the attendance of our proceedings as a public court by members of the public. We take judicial notice of the fact that Mr. Samia Awuku has been attending the proceedings of this court in this ongoing case. We think that the exclusion of Mr. Samia Awuku from attending the proceedings of this court for the rest of the duration of this case should suffice for a start in this direction. That is our delivery.
Thank you.
Now, we've given you full opportunity to demonstrate how mighty you are, and we hope you've done so.
My lords,
Do you now realize your real size?
Would like to.
All right, thank you very much. And it's the preceding part of what Justice Atuba had to say that I wanted you to pay attention to, and where I thought that you see him looking beyond the court and what has become a culture. Some agree it's become a culture where you have young people insulting the elderly in the name of political communication and all of that, and that he felt that ought to stop at a certain point.
Yeah. You should leave that to the pastors. I'm not sure that it's the work of the Supreme Court to talk about that. Really,
okay, Gabi, you have to be careful there.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, there are certain things.
All
yes,
right. But
freedom of speech is
but the court has the requisite powers and also to admonish the public as well, as far as that is concerned.
But it must be within the confines of what is judicials or whatever.
Yeah, but when you are dealing with the Supreme Court, when you are dealing with the Supreme Court, you are dealing with the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but not about it can't sanction morality.
Loosely put, the Supreme Court makes law. Am I right? All right. Okay. Now let's hear Kofi Annan. Let's hear Kofi Annan and part of the statement that he issued, and he is urging all the parties to stop anything that will seek to subvert what the court is doing. And here I read him say that he says that I am confident. You say,
which Kofi Annan?
Dr. Kofi Annan, former, UN Secretary General. He says that I am confident that the election dispute can be resolved peacefully through our institutions, provided the main parties respect the findings of the court. Such an outcome will not only burnish our democratic credentials, but also bolster the hopes of a nation for a brighter, more prosperous tomorrow. He says elections are a means of regulating political rivalries in the broader interest of the nation. I just like to end it at that point here where he says the winner has to be given a chance to lead, and the losers have to find their rightful place in opposition. Keeping the government in check and preparing rival policies to present to the electorate the next time round. And he's hoping that what Kwame Nkrumah had envisioned for this country, that the country was prepared to pick up and make it a nation that will be respected by every nation in the world. And he's saying, let us live up to Kwame Nkrumah's aspiration today and show the world what we are capable of. I'll start here with Abdul Malik Kwekubako. Issues have come up with people no need to be celebrating and all over these issues. Asante Hene has come in also to urge the parties to accept. John Mahama has committed himself to accept. Nana Akufo-Addo has committed himself to accept. Now you have Dr. Kofi Annan coming in to say we should avoid anything, including casting doubts on the court and its decision.
Well said, but I believe he also indicated that it all depends on how the court also thoroughly examines the issues before it and fairly dispenses justice. It's a two-way street as far as I'm concerned. And at this stage, I'm not in a position to question the motives or anything of the court. I'm not in a position to do that. But what we want is fairness and equity, but I'm surprised you are excluding us from commenting on Professor Asari's thing.
I'm sorry about that. You can do briefly on that one too. Yeah.
I've read the piece, and I'll tell you honestly, I think I'm with him all the way. It's part of that point I was making, that the unsustainability of the path that the Supreme Court has taken. Okay? If the Supreme Court were to stop here, I'm with them. But if they were to proceed further, to search, locate, and drag corporates who might have committed contempt to the courts, sooner than later they will have too much on their hands and they won't deal with the issue. So I'm with the sentiment being expressed by Professor Asari. He has that spirit of being an activist for democracy, and that is the kind of spirit I think we should promote. Dr. Kofi Annan is timely, and that's one weighty voice that Ghana has. So adding to it really, I think, helps. It sanitizes the environment. You cannot pin him to any political colors, party colors. And so that kind of voice is a statesman, an international one at that. It helps. It's just very timely intervention by him. And I believe all sides, including the court, will take a cue from it. So that's about what one can say. But let's hold it. If you Supreme Court, I don't think it's sacrosanct. Is it? It's not. They are not above reproach. They are not above criticism. And indeed, even in terms of cases of contempt that have appeared before our courts, including the Supreme Court, there have been some that, with the benefit of hindsight, they were not handled well. This Mensah Bonsu, one you are talking about, was a classic case. And I'm sure you've read Justice Aiken's book, a copy of which I have here. The different rules of a barrister. Yeah. If you go in there and you read it carefully, he raises the question of the procedures and things that were applied in the process of trying Mensah Bonsu, which led to his conviction, and makes a telling indictment of the Supreme Court, of which he himself was a key member. So the truth is that, yes, we must be able to have that spirit to subject Supreme Court decisions or proceedings to critical but responsible comment.
All right.
I insist that we should make sure we don't sow the seeds of docility and cowardice in our body politic. We didn't fight to consolidate democracy in order to get to a stage where we are all scared to make commentary because Samia Awuku has been dragged before the Supreme Court. I don't think we should vote for that kind of situation.
All right. Point is, if you are dealing with the truth, if you are dealing with the facts, and you are being accurate, you will not be afraid of any contempt, isn't it?
Well, precisely.
Yes. Now, why do you think must have gotten Dr. Kofi Annan to take his pen and paper and write?
Well, I can't read his mind, but if you look at the timing, at least, I don't know when it was written, but look at the timing of the publication, coming almost at the same time that the Supreme Court, has had to take this, move that it has taken, and then other comments also haven't been made. One would say that, like any other person who in various ways has been contributing by way of commentary, orally or writing, towards the process, that is his role that he can also play. And that is to say, reminding us of our responsibilities towards the state in whatever we do. If you are the judges that have to deal with this particular matter, you have a duty to be fair, you have a duty to be, to take into account the high stakes involved and all of that. And the parties, they are directly involved, and their conduct can go a long way to ensuring that there is stability even after the verdict is delivered. So I think that if I am to guess why he has written the piece, the only guess I can make for now is that it is just a normal contribution to such an important process like this. But don't forget that Kofi Annan was part of the resolution, one way or the other, of the Kenyan crisis. And he may have had first-hand knowledge of how that society got to where it was. And it is a reminder that we don't have to get there in order to learn their lessons. Gabi talked about the directives that the Kenyan court had to issue out, and the fact that the Kenyan media had to comply with, and at the end of the day, they were applauded. Perhaps because of what they experienced directly, they were in a better position to appreciate, whatever directives that the courts, had issued. But, we normally say that wise people learn from other people's errors. So we don't have to go that far in order to learn the lessons that they have learned. So all of us, we need to be critical, but above all, too, we need to be very responsible, in whatever we do. And I think that's all that can be said about this.
There are also comments that have been coming in suggesting that the Supreme Court should rather delegate the power to monitor and pick people who are making contemptuous comments to the High Court to deal with those people so that it could concentrate on the case itself. Nana, when Kofi Annan speaks, that should end the matter for all of us, shouldn't it?
Oh, sure. I think that when in Ghana, in the world, when Kofi Annan speaks, he speaks for everybody. He speaks for the world. He wasn't only involved in Kenya. He was beyond the Secretary of UN in charge of conflict resolution. He's seen it all before in so many countries. You understand? It's been his job. And he can see signals, the germination of certain things, what leads to the ultimate, catastrophe. And you see, what the portion that you read, he actually says that the ball will soon be back in the politician's court. Meaning that he sees that this trial is coming to a close. That's very obvious. From what we all know, who is the next witness coming? We say, well, so he's looking into that future. But then he says that the next part is, I'm confident that the election dispute can be resolved peacefully through our institutions, provided the main parties respect the findings of the court. Respect the findings of the court. So that is the underpinning thing. How do we show up? How do we make sure that the findings of the court are respected? And I think that this is what we've been talking about in the morning.
People should stop making comments and attempting to prepare the minds of their supporters for a particular judgment.
And undermining, which ultimately will be undermining the confidence of the people in the judicial process. That is worthless. You understand? It becomes worthless. They say, Saul that has lost his servant is good for nothing. You understand? So I think that, for me, I'm very proud that this trial is about Ghana. This trial is by Ghanaian judges. This trial, Ghanaian lawyers, Ghanaian public. We are handling our own institution, and gradually we will get there.
Okay, I'll end with you, Gabi. And he says, Kofi Annan says here that Ghana awaits the momentous ruling of the Supreme Court on last December's presidential election. The court has already won plaudits for its rigorous and professional work over the past month. The very uncertainty of the outcome speaks to the independence and credibility of the courts.
I think that's fair. And so far, I think by and large, the court has shown that it is capable of giving a decision that we will all be happy with. I mean, well, not necessarily all be happy with, but will be acceptable. Because, yes, I think the court has been fair. Because there have been certain decisions some of us have not been happy with. And there have been certain decisions my senior who sits next to me has not been happy with. And to me, that even shows that we should continue to have confidence in the court. To me, the important thing is that the court should restrain itself to the four corners of the Constitution and the law. This is not about policy preferences. You've set two issues, which is what? Whether or not there were irregularities, more practices, omissions, and violations, and whether or not, if any, had an effect on the results. Okay? So let it be so. Let us not introduce any policy preferences. Once you go that way, rather than just limiting yourself to what the Constitution says you can do,
I see. I think you have already made that point, but
then I think we should be fine.
Stephen Atubiga wants me to point out to you that he never had the blessing of the president, and that on that occasion he never really mentioned the name of the president.
Whose name did he?
And that he started his apology even before the courts invited him. And he thinks that you have been unfair to him in that respect.
Well, if I've been unfair to him, because I have never heard him, it's been reported to me. So if I was unfair to him, then I apologize to him.
It's actually captured.
I'm sure.
What you said is actually captured in a statement that has also been issued by Nana Komia.
Absolutely.
He says that is not true.
I'm sure it might have escaped him, or the way the noise in the studio, the way the arguments went. If you listen carefully to the Asempa thing, Kaba cutting and said, the president said, cancer, I'll say, yeah, before he moved on. I don't think he captured the essence of what Kaba was saying.
I see.
Because he was also in a hurry to make his point.
So he said yes.
Yes, I mean, the implication was clear. You listen to the thing. But I'm sure we all get involved in that kind of debate. When you are in a hurry to make your point, and the host or another panelist makes an intervention, sometimes you ignore it. So that came out as if he was saying he had endorsement of the president. He may not have meant that.
But the boldness with which he's maintained his position.
All right, thank you very much. We'll take a very final break at this point and we'll return and ask the question, should that letter be published, as Martin Amidu is requesting? All right, thank you very much for keeping your dials on Joy 99.7 FM and also for watching us here on your Joy News channel on Multi TV. Your views are still welcome. 1422. My guests in the studio doing the discussion have been Abdul Malik Kubako Jr., Nana Atudazi, Godwin Adawine, and Gabi Asari Ochre Dako. Now, some more of your comments. This one from David Nab. He says, Samson, how do you differentiate in talking in favor of your case in court, considering the volume of evidence you have, and so on becoming so... okay, I'm not getting... You are not writing very clearly, so try and get that properly. When you write, sometimes the best thing I can tell you about is when you text, even if you are texting, if you type it, read over before you send it through. Now, okay, too many of you concentrating on Sami Ewuku. Nana Aban Men says free speech doesn't mean loose talk. All right, that's from Nana Aban Mens. And then Hassan A. Jabila says, I can see that Gabi is trying to defend the indefensible. Samia Wuku's utterances were absolutely unhealthy, and as far as the peace of the country is concerned, so let us all condemn it. And then I've got also Gau Sesame. He says, what's the essence of reading Dawood's piece on Newsfile? What do you want to achieve with that? Highly unnecessary. That statement is clearly an expression of confidence in his case. Please stop the mischief. Thank you very much. Now let's move to Martin Amidu. Martin Amidu has come out in the course of the week to issue a statement, and that statement was in reaction to a statement from the communications, the Ministry of Information, Murtala Muhammad to be specific, and making comments suggesting that Martin Amidu was sacked because he failed to name the persons he accused of the gargantuan crimes in judgment debts. Martin Amidu says that was untrue, and then subsequently he's simply asking that if the government wants the whole world to know the truth about the matter, they should put out one very important letter. His letter of 6 January 2012. He named all the people he accused. Gabi, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, I think really, certainly the government is not going to put that out. I don't think there's anything stopping him from referring to from naming the names that he claims he has, because really, I don't think this is necessarily covered by any secrecy oath. And I explain. The government comes out, okay, to say that this is why you were sacked. And you are saying that is not the truth. And you have the truth. And for your own, if you like, reputation, you rely on government to defend you on this. I think he's free to defend himself, and he's free to come out and say this and that is why I did what I did, or why I had issues with the government. He's free to say so, and I don't think that really he will be sinning against any oath of secrecy. I really don't think so, because at the end of the day, it would not affect the security of the state. It would help the governance of this country, because it will expose certain things, and even the Whistleblowers Act gives us some cover regarding these things. So I think he's been pushed, and if he's been pushed and he's been pushed into a corner, he should come out and let us know if they are indeed named.
Now, a quick one on that one, Nana. Can he go ahead and publish that letter?
He doesn't have to publish the letter.
Well, I haven't seen the letter. I don't know the nature. I don't know whether it's covered by any secrecy, but really, I mean, if he's been accused of anything, he has a right to self-defense, to prove it. But I don't know what names we are talking about. In the Waterville case, the list of persons who are said to be were thrown up. I mean, there's so much more information
about talking about people in government.
Yes, I'm saying that there were cases. Also, I suffered names have been up. And okay, for the last 1 year or so, the allegations of people who are said to have been involved in judgment debt. I've defended some. The former chief of staff, the former minister for finance. These are, for me, really no news for now.
Why is the government not responding to him positively by publishing that?
No, I think that really, I mean, if you push me to a corner, I would say that with all due respect to my very good friend, this is a very petty matter. Not in terms of the subject matter, but really, I mean, there are processes and procedures and institutions for dealing with that.
He said that the citizens deserve to know the truth.
Yes, then
so
he must find it.
As long as you continue to say that he misconducted himself, he did not tell the president the name.
You see,
and he says he did.
You see, let me go back to this. I say that in the whatever case, I've read the judgment happily, or at least some portions, And after that, with the court, he raised concerns about the conduct of the former, Attorney General. For instance, my client, Betty Bold Idrisu, and it was literally a charge, they raised. The court said, look, if you have any matter, in relation to them, there are appropriate places to go, the High Court or whatnot. So I'm just saying that Martin has an inherent right as a citizen, if he is aware of some illegalities, to choose the right institution. Yes, of course, he's headed them, SFO, whatnot, and all that, and then file a proper complaint so that we get out of the realm of supposition and hearsay, and because these things also affect the people that are said to be, who are involved in it. Can you imagine my client? I can say it on air, that she feels very much aggrieved that there are all kinds of allegations. Nobody is coming out with a substantive action against her. She would defend herself. She believes that she acted professionally. She believed she acted, within the remit of the law. So I think that, in fairness, this matter should be allowed to drop, or formal, applications should be made, to the appropriate agencies of state.
What kind of application are you thinking about?
No, if you are aware of a criminal act or activity by anybody, the police is there, the SFO is there, you can file, like,
He gave those names to the government. The government has not taken action against those people.
But the government is not that's not prosecutorial right. They are not the ones who are involved in this.
I thought that was rather the job of the government through the Attorney General, Article 88.
I'm saying that there are institutions of state which have been set up for this purpose. So if there's criminality, you see, now the matter is dropped into the level of accusation one from there. I don't even know the circumstance under which the honorable minister or deputy minister would have gone out there to make those things that he didn't. This give and take.
There were questions about how honorable Martin Amidu claims he is.
Yes.
And he suggested that if he was that honorable and that he's pursuing, that's what the information, as far as I know, it goes. If he was that honorable and whatever and was pursuing a noble cause for the country, why did he refuse to name the people he claimed were involved in gargantuan judgment debts, crimes? Why did he refuse to name them, and which led to his sack?
Yep.
And he came to respond to say that is untrue. I named them.
So I'm saying that if you have named people and nothing is happening, just as he went to Supreme Court, he can pursue, the action in the legitimate institutions of state. You see, we are building a nation, a state, where, as they say, the institutions are being supported or propped up. So I think that, like I'm saying, we should stop this radio, TV, media war, and then get back to the hard fact.
Okay. See, it was Gabi who was on. I truncated you. So if you can briefly end, does it sound to you that his request of the government may be taken to be an indictment of the government, to the extent that he has named criminals, alleged, so to speak, and it doesn't appear that they are being dealt with?
I think
that the state is rather protecting them.
Let me get back to it. There's nothing stopping him from going ahead to name those alleged criminals. There's nothing stopping him. And he can't leave it there. He needs to give particulars as to why he believes that they're involved in some form of crime. So I don't think he should be. Well, maybe he has a strategy. Maybe he's pushing government to do it. And the fact that you've given names to government, it doesn't mean the IOCO was set up, so government can always hide under that. We undertook some investigations, and then we took action because, was it Woyome? and a couple of others were in court. So government, in its defense, can say, yes, we took action. But if he believes that those actions taken by government did not go far enough, there's nothing stopping him, as my senior has just said, from, first of all, coming out with whatever evidence that he has, and even putting out there in the public domain can compel government to do more if there's merit in whatever he will put out there. So I think the onus is more on him, because government can always say that we have done what we think we have to do. We have put even this commission in place. So there are all sort of things that government can say. But clearly, he is not happy.
All right.
And he has every reason not to be happy, but he must back those reasons with details for us to know. Because, it appears that we had a situation that wasn't right in terms of how things were paid, if you go by the Supreme Court decisions. And we can't continue.
Now, Godwin, if it is the case that the citizen has a right to know the circumstances under which Martin Amidu was sacked, and now, he's saying, I named these people, they are saying you didn't name them, as it were. Is there a way that if he is reluctant in coming forward with the names, and he's thrown the challenge to the government, is there a way that the citizens can compel the production of these names?
In which court?
I think the issue or the issues surrounding his dismissal are still shrouded in secrecy. I mean, one version is that he displayed, he was rude towards the late president. Another version is
according to the letter, he misconducted himself.
Very well. And then another version is that he failed to name the persons he alleged had committed.
Maybe that's the misconduct.
Well, so, I mean, these are two different things, and we don't know which is which. But really, if you look at this issue about naming names, I think that Mr. Amidu comes out because he has been accused of not doing it. And he simply has to say, look, that is false. I have mentioned names. So actually mentioning the names at this point from him, I don't think I don't think that it is any important thing for him to do. He simply said, look, I mentioned the names in a certain letter, and that's okay. So I don't think that we should place so much importance on him mentioning the name.
It appears he's even suggesting that he would do so, because he says, I reserve the right as a citizen of Ghana to protect and defend my honor and integrity should this civilized challenge for the truth be ignored. Sounds like a threat to say,
so he would take
I would go on.
Well, the point is this. I think if you read that, what he simply said is that, look, don't keep saying things about me which are false, because there are certain things, for one reason or the other, I have chosen not to speak about. So let's leave matters at that point. And I think that there should be a ceasefire at this particular point. And it really, because he's a very senior member of the party, having once been a government official. And sometimes I would say it's very embarrassing, so to speak, that such a senior-most member of the party will engage in such back and forth with his juniors, those that he should be mentoring. So I think that, there should be a ceasefire.
Are you suggesting that those that he's supposed to be mentoring, if they go at him in the manner that he feels is not correct, he should not respond to them?
He has the right to respond. That's not what I'm saying. He has the right to respond. But what I'm saying is that the picture is not a good picture, to be shown. And so both sides must cease fire.
Which picture? The one exposing corruption?
Well, it's not about exposing corruption. Because he has alleged certain things that were not done, that should have been done. He has gone ahead. He has gone to the Supreme Court. He has won the case. He hasn't granted any interview to anybody. He's sitting here somewhere. People have said things about him.
He says there's a campaign to vilify him, and that must stop. He says that his life is even in danger, and government has come out to promise him, assure him, that his security will be taken care of.
And that is the problem. Why should his life be in danger? Why should anybody be interested in harming him? Because if it is about the steps that he has taken, the steps have already been taken and come to an end. So if government now wants to take any step, it should take it up from there. So I really do not see the point in the two sides fighting over this particular matter.
Okay, now you wanted to make a quick intervention. You do that, and then I get to Abdul Malik.
I think that, quite clearly, my colleague made the point that Martin in this must always remember that he's occupied a very singular position in this country as Attorney General.
And that's why he feels that some people who have not achieved anything in life should not be doing
I think that he knows it, that all over the world, public office is at that high, at the highest level. It might be a little more circumspect to what you say, what you do after office. Some, what they do is that after that, they commit themselves, put their thoughts into writing, exposing all kinds of things. Even in England, there were Spy Catcher and others. Some of the books were chased that they won't let you publish it. You understand? Because there must be some sanctity at that level. It's not everything that you follow. It's not everything that you pursue. So
there's nothing state security about corruption.
No, I'm not saying it's state security, but still you need to be a little circumspect. And I wholly agree with you that this media, battle is unhealthy, even for the image of Martin himself. He's won a great battle, and I've said that maybe the new law that is even coming, that because you've seen the Parliament is set up committee, the cabinet
right to information.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about the
law to
international business transaction. Parliament has also said that. I think that in some societies, we should name that bill after that law after Martin Amidu. So when you say Martin Amidu law, you know what law you're talking about. You're talking about international business transaction must necessarily go to Parliament. In American law, they do all that kind of thing. See, so he also feel that he's achieved something. It's not the money, it's not whatever. And I've said over and over again, I think that he has helped to clarify that one. But beyond it, there are other related matters. And thank God, what we've been saying now, proposals have come from cabinet as well as Parliament to address the real shortfall which had created the Martin Amidu law.
All right. Now Abdul Malik, the suggestion is that Martin Amidu, has achieved for himself a lot. He should stop responding to these comments that come against him.
Well, he has achieved. We've all praised him here, but I'm not too sure about this one because Martin himself, in pursuit of his goal, referred to the Balkan case as well as the Atlantic Pharaoh case. So there were earlier precedents. What he's done is to reinforce it. We should still give him credit, but I think we should get a sense of proportion right.
Okay, but you're not against naming the law after him?
No.
All right.
I admire him, so that's no big deal. But I've just wanted it for record purposes.
That's so.
This is a program of records. So
he won on the back of those.
Yes, he did, and in his own, and he will be the first to make that point. He's a very fair-minded person. You see, why the series of provocations? First, the Deputy Attorney General provokes him by putting out an obvious untruth. The man has to come out. And I know how difficult it was for Martin to make a public statement on that matter. Subsequent to that...
But you say that's an obvious untruth. Abraham Amaliba was here last week, and he read portions of their statement of case which supported Martin Amidu's position.
A Sofoton. That's what he read.
He read both, for both.
No, but we proved here, by sequence of events, that it could not have been any substantial help.
Okay.
It was clear.
Okay, move on.
At one stage, they were even delaying. They were not filing their defenses. Martin had finished his research and everything.
Okay,
let's not
move
go
on
there.
To list your provocation.
Yes, let's not go there. That was a disingenuous and crafty way of seeking part of the glory, which failed abysmally. Now let's deal with it. Series of provocations. Why? What's the basis for it? Okay? First, you have a deputy attorney general. Then you have a deputy information minister. Then you have a member of the legal team of the ruling party. Series of provocations. So he decides to say, bring out that time bomb letter. It is true that he could put it out himself. It's true. I agree. He may definitely have a copy. But, that there are times people establish some level of confidentiality. It's not necessarily the oath of secrecy. There's a certain element of confidentiality. And I think he pointed to an example where he wrote a certain letter to Mr. Rawlings years ago, which he kept for a long time without making public. It may be his own style of how he conducts his politics. Okay? So for some reasons, he is not at this moment ready to be the one to publish the letter. For government, I think there's a greater responsibility also on government. If a former member of government keeps on recollecting that particular incident and telling the world that there's a letter,
you keep quiet.
If you won't keep quiet, then prepare to accept the challenge. If they will not stop this infantile acts of provocations, which brings Amidu out of his chambers, quote unquote, then accept the challenge and publish the letter. You see, when the letter is published, it will raise other issues in terms of accountability, probity, and transparency. It would show that if a government is giving information by its Attorney General, and the Attorney General is subsequently removed from office, what does the government do with that information? When you are telling the public that you believe in probity, accountability, transparency, you have integrity, unparalleled integrity. You went to the campaign with all these principles. They are captured in your manifesto. Okay? So it raises issues. And I believe that is why government is unable, terminally unable, to make a disclosure of that letter. I'm not going to put the heat on Martin that bring the reporter, the letter out. He may, one day, depending on the level of provocations. He may. But I don't see why a government, and you see, the tricky part is that it's not the same government if we are talking constitutional thing. I mean, I think we all appreciate that, even though almost the same persons overlap. But strictly in constitutional terms, in strict constitutional terms, this is not, it's not the same government.
Yeah.
But especially, somebody said, particularly when it's not the same government, why should it be difficult for this government to release that document? Because it's a matter of record. It should be at the castle, the Flagstaff House. It was at the castle then, but it is now at the Flagstaff House. It definitely, when they were moving documentation,
Maybe didn't follow out to the Flagstaff House.
missing in action, such an important letter. The former chief of staff, who is mentioned occasionally by Martin, is today sitting at the Council of State. Is he not? That's a body that advises the president. I don't know. My advice is that the letter, government should accept the challenge of Martin and publish that letter so that we can have an informed discussion on the contents of that letter.
What Nana is suggesting, and also Godwin is suggesting, you will find that in his reactions or his rejoinders, he appears to be someone who is scouting all over and reading. He's reading almost all the online, publications around. That he should take a break, relax, and probably ignore all of these things and enjoy his life.
He's exited from government. He must have more time and space to do that monitoring. But you realize that he only reacts to things that actually try to touch on his integrity. That's what he does. He doesn't run around chasing everything. No, let's be fair to him. Yes. And so I am asking, why do some people in government keep provoking him when they are not prepared to accept the challenge he throws?
I see.
It's as simple as that. If you know you cannot accept the challenge, stop provoking the gentleman. Simplicity.
All right.
I think that there are a lot of challenges.
Clotia Nabi Opoti writes, Amidu seems to be echoing the words of Luther. He says, his namesake, I hate, yes, that's Martin Luther. He says, I hate contention. I will challenge no one. In return, I wish not to be challenged. But being challenged, I will not be dumb. Let them not continue daring the man. That is what he thinks is the best way to stop it. Like Ekoku is saying, let the provocation end. Now, Cypren Eninfo says, Samson, recently in the world's biggest democracy, India, Justice G.S. Singhvi, I think I have read that somewhere before, in dismissing a contempt charge, gave this remark. In all civilized societies, the courts have exhibited high degree of tolerance and accepted adverse comments and criticism of their orders, judgments, even though at times such criticism is totally of the mark, and the language used is inappropriate. Then he mentions the case Indirect Tax Practitioners Association versus RKJ, and so on. He said, so does it mean that stating an opinion which might be true should be taken as a comment? I really do not. All right, let's end it there. Thank you very much for your comments. I'm now looking for just comments that are directly about Martin Amidu's issue. Now, Abdul Razak Isa says, yes, those names should be published so that we, the NDC, will know the kind of people we are working with. Okay, for those of you who didn't hear, he says Abdul Razak says he needs an NPP man. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Maybe there are still some Martin Amidus left.
Okay. Thank you very much for this. Is Newsfile on Joy 99.7 FM. You are listening to us over a dozen affiliate stations across the country, and also you are watching us on your multi-TV Joy News channel. And
see, Samson, one of these days,
yes,
don't be surprised if a newspaper house intercepts and puts it out there. If Martin will not publish, and if government will not publish,
the newspaper will publish.
That paper will be published.
Don't be surprised if the new crusading guy intercepts.
No, I didn't say that. It might be Daily Guide on the station. One of these days, that letter will be published.
Very, very interesting. Interesting issues there.
I'm sure there's a copy in the document there.
When should we expect it?
In the document.
He will be carrying it along.
Look, what do you say about those who say he keeps talking about threats to his life and he's not showing us evidence of that? What's the point?
Well, there are two levels. If it's serious, my advice to him is to also make complaint to the police and seek state protection. There's the other aspect, which I have done before, also to throw light on it in the public. It serves as a deterrence to those who might be plotting. You know, when you bring something to the light, it has a way of going down. But seriously, if at this stage he feels sufficiently threatened, he must make a formal complaint to the police. Putting it in a newspaper or in an article is not sufficient. It is not bad, I've done it before, but you must proceed further to the appropriate authority and lodge a complaint in order to secure some protection, which is the right of the duty of the state to render to any citizen of the land. That's the way I see it.
There's a government statement. The government assures Martin.
Yes, that's what I referred to. And earlier, he himself admits that the National Security Coordinator, Gbevlolate, called him and wanted to know of the details of the...
But it should be done with his consent, because, again, otherwise that could turn out to be something else. If he sees people around, mountain surveillance or some reconnaissance, he might think it's even an enemy action. So those things are done with the consent of the person who is lodging the complaint.
Okay.
Also, I think there's also, it appears that there's a new form of threat, which maybe we should be looking at. Earlier this week, Canada Japan says that there's I call it a chopper threat. There's a helicopter that... I'm coming. There's a helicopter that came to his house and threw lighting for a long time. 2 days ago, around 9 p.m., the security people in Nanado's house also mentioned seeing a similar thing.
Maybe they were chasing some armed robbers.
No, then they I'm just saying. And then they threw the lights into the nurse house.
I thought they were throwing into my house.
So I don't know whether they've been to a Martin Amidu's house.
Is it the case that when they threw the light there, they stayed there for a while? Is that the case?
Yeah, that's what. No, in Nanado's house, they didn't. Apparently, they didn't stay. But Kennedy says that they stayed.
You think those in the chopper knew whose house it was?
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying that's the coincidence. So,
I see.
Yeah. I was at a funeral yesterday, and there was a lady, somewhere in Accra who thought that there was this chopper going around and was directed at the
area reconnaissance.
You get me? So the area reconnaissance. I mean,
all right, we'll move to the next issue. But before that, Sule Haruna says something. I think Martin Amidu should be encouraged to release the bomb so as to expose those corrupt officials. Actually, according to Martin Amidu, the one who described that letter as the political time bomb is Newman. And then
the former chief of staff.
Yeah, the former chief of staff.
Oh. And he's named in the letter.
Yes, he thinks he's being dishonorable.
Well, okay. There's somebody in parliament who is also there.
Yeah, because basically what happens is, sometimes the chief of staff has to agree to some of these things.
Okay. Can we now move to Ashaman? Can we move to Ashaman? And in Ashaman, the start of the week, we were greeted by some angry people, residents joining drivers in the area, calling for about 200 police personnel to intervene to ensure that life and limb was not disturbed. These people simply were seeking to draw attention to the deplorable state of their roads there. The CPP has come out to officially congratulate them for that. And that's the question we're asking. Is that the way to go? If you think that officials are not providing some social amenities that you need, including infrastructure like road, you go on the streets and then you get commended for it.
Are they getting results?
Well, it appears that they are being told that some contractors, have been asked to do their job, but they are not quick about it, and that even though the municipality use its own funds to do some, it needs some external support. So it appears that they are getting the necessary attention. Yeah. And there are actually some who are also suggesting that the roads minister, the people at the highways who were responsible for ensuring that this was done, should be sacked.
You see, sometimes you find it very difficult to support such events. Other times, you really have no choice. When you really appreciate what people go through when such basic facilities are not available, and all attempts to get those in charge to attend to issues, do not prove successful, then you will appreciate why sometimes the people have to act that way. And I understand they are getting responses, positive responses in a way. Be they in the form of explanation as to why the rules have not been attended to, and steps being taken, and even temporary measures being taken. All these things, I believe, did not happen, prior to the disturbances. And what has happened in Ashama, people in other communities are also watching because they have very similar situations. So the point is that, yes, we do not think that such activities are to be promoted or encouraged, but we also must appreciate the difficulties that the communities face. And those who are in charge of the provision of such services must really live up to their responsibilities. It is very frustrating actually getting services from public officials. It's very frustrating. And it gets to a point where the people have no choice but to take such steps. And in many cases, they do get results. So,
you mean you support this? They went on, they vandalized some property, some police people were even hurt and had to be taken to hospital.
Obviously, nobody will say that. Vandalizing property, injuring people will be something that we have to encourage. But the point is, there are serious underlying causes. And we should not always be quick to condemn communities who mobilize in these ways. I mean, it was spontaneous. I don't think that anybody really, got up and then incited them and got them organized. It was spontaneous. And such spontaneous actions must not normally be taken lightly, because they are watching what is happening in other countries. And we may think that, those things can never happen here. But what happened in Ashama, I believe, should be a wake-up call to public sector workers to be up and doing. Otherwise, if we keep condemning these things and then they explode one day, how do we handle them?
Kwaku, he says this should be a wake-up call, but would that also not be encouraging a lot of this kind of action?
Yeah, very, very, very delicate situation. Conflict of emotions here for me, and I have to be very, very careful. Did you say CPP officially endorsed it? Is that the truth?
That is what is supposed to be the situation, because yes, they did. Yes.
That would be a vote for constitutional lawlessness.
A vote for constitutional lawlessness?
Yes.
The people are getting the attention they needed.
No, you see, the action, the people's feeling, understandable. I appreciate it. Deficit in the development strategy and how we distribute our resources. It has its own internal dynamics. I appreciate that. I understand that. But when that event had taken place, there had been violence, however spontaneous it was, and it is endorsed, I draw an extension, and I said the endorsement of that event will amount to a vote for constitutional lawlessness. It can sow the seeds of impunity. It can give people the mindset that let's replicate it across the country. And it will be difficult to do a security management and containment strategy relative to that. So whilst we understand and appreciate their feelings, and as my brother did, to highlight the deficit in how a public sector officers, and for that matter the state itself, including governments, react or distribute resources. We go and we promise them. I'm sure during campaign we give them all sorts of promises. So they expect a certain benefit. They are not getting the benefit. They feel betrayed. All those sentiments are appreciated, and I fully understand them. But it is like proceeding from the right premise, but drawing a wrong conclusion. That's the distinction I'm drawing. Yes, you have a right, you have a case, but how you articulate the case or how you proceed to achieve the right itself is also critical and must be considered. This is a law-governed society. We have what we call Public Order Act. However spontaneous that thing was, there were organizers of some limit, or some level, who may have said, look, this is worrying us. This is a betrayal of our trust. These people aren't giving us what we need. So there was a certain level of consciousness before the spontaneity. Now, those people ought to have been aware that there are laws. If you want to organize a demonstration, who says you cannot? So let's get people together, organize a demonstration against the betrayal of trust, against the inadequate distribution of resources. The law allows you to do that. But the law does not allow you to spontaneously, on your own, just get out there and start fighting policemen, beating journalists, burning ties, blocking traffic. That is constitutional lawlessness.
All right, Nana, I'll come to you right away. But before that, on Martin Amidu, I had a few comments also coming from some very senior lawyers in this country. Two of them, I want to share them with you. And this one says that, who owes the duty of accountability and disclosure to the Ghanaian people? Government or Martin? Who is the trustee? Who made the panic allegation that he was fired for misconduct in the nature of a failure to disclose government appointees in a conspiracy to steal public funds? The duty is on the government to make the disclosure. Another one says that Honorable Martin Amidu will be exposing himself to potential liability if he names the suspects This is more so in the face of a government that is unlikely to be interested in thoroughly investigating the allegations. Well, so he's getting some advice too. I may forward that to him later. But this one says, shock, Kweku Bako is talking like that. He once demanded from President Mills the sacking of Martin Amidu. And this is from Larry. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, the comments of the two senior lawyers.
Yes.
Well, they are entitled to their opinion, even though I wholly disagree with them, you know.
You do?
If there's evidence. What we are saying is that, yes, there's a burden on the state, on the government, but it is the duty of every citizen to also stand up.
Okay, so let's get back to Asham.
And I'm also saying that Martin has held a certain position. But basically, I think if we're talking about civil disobedience, I just looking at that, you can't, like Kweku said, you can't justify, the path of violence, along with this, the civil disobedience that were act that we're showing. When you go and then you occupy the motorway and then break into the toll booth, and then, gang off with the monies there and all that. Really, I mean, you've exceeded. But that should not take us away from the central point that they probably wanted to articulate. You get me? But you need to go within the confines of the law. I am disappointed, though, that we couldn't get, or they couldn't go through the institutional establishments like the District Assembly. Really, what they're talking about, that is why district assemblies are there. They have representatives of whatnot.
But road construction of a certain level is outside the domain of the district assembly.
But in this case, the municipal chief executive came to say they had started something and then they wished that the decentralization would have been complete enough so they could have raised money to complete the project.
But it means they are not yet there.
Yeah,
what you've read means they are not yet there.
No, you see, they have a link to the what do you call it? The ministry, roads and transport and whatnot. The urban roads and all that. I'm saying that the system could have contained it. The amount of pressure put on and whatnot. But I'm saying that the roads are so terrible. It's right in the city. You get me? I heard the chief executive saying that they've done so much by way of the the outside the main town. Really, that does not answer their immediate needs. But the point I'm making is that one, we should try and exhaust the institutional, framework available for redress. And secondly, we ought not to be going that far because you can have criminal elements hijack the whole process. You get me? Well, then.
You saw people trying to take a whole lot of things out of the
people's
process.
property. You saw
the police had to arrest them.
Yeah, they had to arrest them. Carry away somebody's, what do you call it? Concrete mixer. Yes. In the midst of all that, he was just driving, pushing the concrete mixer away.
Okay, but we don't know if he was stealing it.
He's taking his share.
Well, you saw the police reaction.
That was a good one.
So we are told that some went to the toll booth and looted.
Yes.
They took money away.
Traffic was blocked completely and all that. But I think, as I said, we shouldn't lose sight of the main thing. But like civil disobedience, we must know the limits we're going.
Okay, let me hear Gabi on this one. Gabi? Sorry.
What's happening?
Okay, so... Okay.
Gabi's mouth is full.
I caught him unawares. This one from Ayaz Ibrahim. He says that I disagree with Kweku when he says that government should accept the challenge, and that, in my opinion, is that government has accepted the challenge by denying the receipt of such letter. Has government denied receiving the letter from Martin Amidu? Government has not. So get your facts right. That is not absolutely correct. Now, maybe I should move on to, we have very limited time, and I wanted us to move on to the visa, bond matter.
Gabi is ready.
Unless Gabi is ready to say a thing or two about this one.
Well, I think really there's a sort of a simmering era of discontent in Ghana. And I think it's important that we don't allow it to boil over. I was very disappointed when I saw police being sent to a route and they had to run away. It's because they were not properly attired. I mean, No,
so are you saying it was wrong to send the police there?
No, I mean, I saw police, they had to run away because stones were being thrown at them. And of course, they didn't have helmet and the rest.
One was injured.
So let's make sure we protect our police. Well, if you're going to send them to situations like that. But clearly, I think what we have to watch out for is that this does not escalate into what we may find very difficult to control. Because it happened just like that. And it shows you there could be other such, if you like, feelings out there. So let's really be on top of the game.
But that's why we shouldn't rationalize or justify it.
I would not justify it.
Because then we show the sense of impunity.
There's some level of civil disobedience that's allowed, like Rosa Parks, for instance, of course. So, yes, so there's some level of civil disobedience. There's some level of protest that's allowed. But when
the Public Order Act is there.
Precisely.
They could have organized a demonstration
when
according to the law.
When it goes beyond, when it has to sort of, if you like, get into violence, then of course it's. But like I said, I think there's an era of discontent. We are within some era of discontent.
Okay.
It's important that this doesn't boil over. To me, that's.
You're not suggesting this is new. You're not suggesting this is new.
Oh, it's not necessarily new.
Right.
But really, we haven't seen.
I ask that because you're using it to say there's some level of discontentment.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Quickly, if we can
do a survey.
If I can get,
it's even mutual discontent. Even government people are not
2-3 minutes from each of you, Gabi. Yeah. And I've heard you comment about the £3,000. Is it?
Yeah.
Bond for high-risk visitors to the UK. It's a proposal that's being considered. You say it should not be countenanced at all.
Absolutely not. I mean, first of all, it would just encourage other areas. I mean, we are aware of marriage of convenience. It may cost you about £4,000 or £5,000 to get someone who's hard up in Britain to marry you. So if it's going to cost £3,000 to get a bond, then you might as well find some extra money and then marry legally. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it will only encourage marriage of convenience. Okay. And I hope Sam Chima, there's a Ghanaian who is a private aide to another MP, private aide to David Cameron. They ought to be advising properly. I understand that he's putting a halt to it or something, because this proposal, and it will be challenged, I think, in the European Court of Human Rights, because it clearly it falls under, I think, Article 14 of discrimination. You can't apply rules.
You use the wrong word. It's selective.
It's selective, but if you look at the Charter of Fundamental Rights under the European Union, and you look at the European Convention on Human Rights, these are you're not supposed to apply rules in a discriminatory manner.
Gabi, the question I ask is, they are simply saying, you have a bunch of people in these countries who have been very dishonest in applying, in the usage of the visas that they give them. That they've been very, very dishonest. You get a visa, and it's solely for 6 months, and you go and spend forever in the UK. But that is wrong.
But it's not even true, because when you look at it in terms of, you see, Britain, their biggest problem is not from Ghanaians or Nigerians. It's from people from Poland. And from 31st December, people from Bulgaria and Romania. The second most spoken language in England, next to English, is Polish. From 2004 that they joined the EU to date, the population has moved from 75,000 to 500,000. The jobs that Ghanaians used to get ordinarily, like cleaning and all this stuff, it's been taken over by the Polish. Yes, absolutely. It's not really those few who can get in from Nigeria or Ghana that they have problems with. If you look, this is a list of groups that are in Europe, the immigrants. Ghanaians don't come in at all. Nigerians come in a bit, but you have, of course, Indians, but Polish. and others.
Okay.
And I really don't think we should allow this sort of... I like what the Nigerians did.
Yes.
The president called them.
Yes.
He summoned the high commissioner to Abuja.
Okay, Nana, so that's an example that's being used. That's elsewhere, like in Nigeria. In Ghana, the official statement from government has been that they've not been officially notified, and so they will not get into the discussion. But
you want to wait?
Yes, it was a rumor. But elsewhere,
I'll call the ambassador to find out whether it's a rumor.
Have been very clear in condemning that this is wrong.
Well, I think that government obviously will be cautious about the source of the information. I thought I heard the High Commissioner come out to say that people should apply normally. It's a rumor or whatnot.
So they're proposal.
Yes, they are proposal.
To come in November.
Some things are done through the what do you call it? Protocol and the diplomatic channels. And even though in the world of diplomacy, the government could be saying, "Oh, we haven't said anything. We haven't heard." You don't know what they probably would have done. But I think that I can't speak for government. What I can say is that this is clearly selective. This is clearly discriminatory, and we shouldn't wait for government. Individual Ghanaians, should be the ones to be complaining, protesting. Then our government will find a very strong position. What should retaliate.
What should the protest be? They have their country, and they decide how you get in and get out.
Yes, but they come to our country. Do we do the same thing to them? If we don't, then we should be doing it to them or making proposals towards that.
I've heard that over and again. Is Ghana really willing to do that if it got to that point?
Then we are not ready to maintain our sovereignty. I think that really, we should, no matter how small we are, we should resist this big brother situation. At the level of diplomacy, the international world, we are equal, you understand? And I don't see why they should come out of the blue. Why are they limiting it to Ghana, Nigeria, and just a few other countries, It sounds ill. We should stop it.
The point I'm making is, I'm British, and my grandmother is Ghanaian, coming to visit me. And I have to pay £3,000. I will take it to the court, and they will say that.
I'm not sure. In that case, it will be a high risk visitor.
No. The high risk thing is the interpretation being put on by the commissioner. I've seen what the policy proposal is. It doesn't. It's talking about countries, picking countries.
Yes, picking countries.
Yes.
Well. We should.
The countries are the high risk, not the individuals.
I think we should deal with this thing devoid of sentimentalism, emotionalism, and even nationalism. Every country has a sovereign right to craft its immigration policy. Here we are looking at a Chinese invasion, and we are looking at the possibility of tightening our immigration laws. That's what we are doing as a nation. Yeah. And I said Chinese, I'm using it in a broader sense because there are non-Chinese as part of that. I'm a bit soft when it's African nationals. But beyond that, we have the right to craft our immigration policy, tighten it if we think we should, in order to ensure our economic benefit, our political and social security. So if another country is doing it, I don't have a problem with it in principle. It should take two to tango. Our government should sit with the British government and negotiate a package that would be of mutual benefit to the two countries. But in principle, I have nothing against a country crafting its immigration policy. Of course, we are an international community. We have a global village. We are interdependent. That will impact on whatever bilateral agreement we come to. But bottom line, let's try and improve our own economic prospects here. Let's expand the West African sub-regional thing. It's a big, huge market full of opportunities, and that will reduce the exodus to the Europe and other areas. That's my feeling. I'm very, very unemotional about this matter.
Godwin, do you buy the retaliatory, suggestion? And some are asking the question, you don't have evidence that a lot of these people from Britain, for example, come to Ghana and they abuse your immigration laws, but they can show you evidence of you abusing theirs.
Well, I think that these days every country needs the other one way or the other. So, bottom line, I think that in implementing this policy, it has to do with mutual respect. Because if you are putting the figure at 3,000, does it mean that if I am not a high-risk traveler and I cannot afford this, then it means that I may not be able to achieve my legitimate objective. And a person who may well be high risk and can afford this can then have his way through. So if the fear is legitimate, I think we will have to respect that. But if it has the capacity of also harming, legitimate citizens who may be engaging in their lawful activities abroad, I think that it's a question for the two countries to sit and then respect each other's fears and find common grounds on which to deal with these issues. But retaliation is too strong a word, to use when a person is, what he is doing simply is to protect his interests.
They're just doing this because a threat from the right-wing party in the UK. They've just won elections in local elections. They won plenty of seats, and it's really shocked all of them. And they're trying to, and the target is a black person. That's precisely what it is.
Oh, you don't mean that.
No, but that's what it is.
You don't mean that.
No, I'm telling you for a fact. Because clearly, look, over the last couple of years, in terms of net migration has gone down in the UK. The threat that they are facing is not from Africans.
All right.
It's from the Bulgarians and the Romanians and the...
Okay, Gabi, you have made that point. Thank you very much for watching Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. And we came to you live from the Multi-TV studios. This is your Joy News channel. You've been listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr., Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Nana Atudazi, he's a lawyer and former Chief of Staff. Gabi Asari Ochiridako is a lawyer and is the Executive Director of the Dankwa Institute. And Godwin Adawine is also a lawyer and a lecturer. Have a good afternoon. The news is up next.
Up deep action. We created it to give the world 3 times fresher breath and eliminate up to 99% of germs. Maybe we went too far. There's an outbreak of freshness.